So in this video, I'm going to show you how to use the Grackle Docs add-on to run a quick accessibility scan on your document. The example file I have here is an old syllabus of mine that I've purposely set up to be a little wonky with different font sizes and everything, just to kind of show you how Grackle will pick up on these little subtleties within your file. So the first thing you do is obviously open up a Google document with text in it, or you can start from scratch and start building your document. To run the Grackle Doc add-on, simply go up to the add-ons and locate the Grackle Docs add-on and go to launch. Now this should automatically be installed under everybody's LCPS account if you're a staff member. If it's not there, you might want to put in a trouble ticket and see if something needs to be pushed out to you. This was purchased at the county level, so again, every teacher should have access to this. So once you go to add-ons and Grackle Docs, like I mentioned, go to launch. And you can see down at the bottom it's working, and on the right side a window is going to show up here and it's going to be running a check. It is a 25-point check, I believe, on your document, or 22, I'm sorry. And you can see right off the bat, based on my format and structure, 20 of the 22 checks were passed. So the green check marks, think of these as a stoplight. So green means good to go, red means stop and take a look, and yellow is sort of just a yield. You know, take it, slow down, take a look. There might be something in here to adjust. So the title of my document, since I already have a title in my Google Doc file, as well as up here, it's assuming that I have a title, so I'm good to go there. Typically what I found is that the language is always set to English for my file, but if by some reason it isn't, this will get flagged. And when you click on it, it's going to ask you to set language. And when you click on that, it's going to, down here, it should automatically show up to EN, which is English. So again, you can change it to whatever language if you're using a different one. And I go ahead and click update there. So green, I'm good to go. We're not going to worry about that. Now with images, if you have images in your file, which we typically tend to have, I'm guilty of this too. I usually don't label my images with an alt text, which when a screen reader is run, will usually either skip over that image, or sometimes it even pauses it and won't run beyond that image. So if you have difficulty reading text, you may assume that your screen reader is done reading all the text on that page and move on. And that may not be the case. So one way to do this is simply click on the X here, and it's going to indicate that you have one image in your file. And what I do like about Grackle is that if I had 5 or 6 images in here, it would show all 5 images as possibly being flagged. And when I click on locate, it's going to highlight the image it wants me to tag. So if I have 5 images, I'm going to have 5 different things that'll say locate tag here. So once it's highlighted and located, I just click on the word tag, and it's going to bring up a window here for my alternate text. This is a short description that you want to give to your image, because when a screen reader gets to it, it's going to read whatever you type in here. So I'm going to keep this short and just call it Spanish flag, and then click update. I'm going to rerun the check. And now my images have a green check mark because I've tagged it with the word Spanish flag. So I'm going to go ahead and use the Read Write Gold screen reader here to kind of demonstrate why it's important that you have your images labeled. So I'm going to click play.
Spanish I syllabus. Spanish flag. Senior.
So if I didn't have that alternate text for that flag, it's going to jump from syllabus right on down to my name here. All right, so keep going down here. Lots of green check marks. So the heading section, this is where the structure is very important. And I've learned after going through this, it's worth the time and effort to really use these functionalities built into Microsoft Word as well as Google Docs. So the headings that it's talking about are these stylized headings up here. So by default, when you start a Google document, it's always set to normal text. So that means everything's going to be whatever your default fonts are and size. So typically, I think it's Arial or Calibri 10 or 12, depending on how you have it set up. So what it's suggesting you do here is to actually use these different stylizing headers here. So title, think of this as like an outline, whereas title is obviously going to be your biggest font size with the most space. And then as you work your way down, those are the headings you're going to use to sort of indent and structure your document. So what I would do here is, since this is my main title, I'm going to go ahead and set this to title. You're going to know it's going to jump to a really large font with a different font size. I can worry about that later. I can always go back and adjust that. Spanish 1 syllabus, I'm going to make my subtitle. All this information here, I can make that heading 1. Again, it's really getting large and stuff. So I'm just going to go in here real quick. I'm going to hit pause, and I'm going to be back after I kind of reformat some of the stuff. Okay, so it took a few moments here to set up the structure of my document. So my title, and I was using the different formatting options here: subtitle, heading 1, heading 2, heading 3, heading 4. So as you see, as I scroll through here, it's much more uniform. The fonts are nice, and they really stand out where my different sections are going to be with different information. So again, not only even if I'm not using a screen reader, this is going to be, it makes it just kind of a nice flow to my document here. So I'm going to go ahead and do a recheck here. I'm probably still going to get a few red marks here. Okay. So my headings, it's showing on my headings here. This one where it says a single heading 1, I haven't quite figured out why it does that, but it's like it only wants you to use the heading 1 function once. I'm not, again, I won't worry about it too much because overall I'm still in the yellow. Some of these little minor things here, which is this one, I would just skip over. I won't spend too much time on. The next thing it's going to look at is tables. So if you have tables in your document, this one down here, so again, you're thinking from the perspective of someone who may not be able to read this without a reader. What's going to happen is it's going to go summatives 50 points, formatives 5 points. But if I'm not able to see that table, it's not going to make a lot of sense most likely. So it's important to format your table with headers for your columns and rows. So within here, I'm just going to insert a row above, and I'm going to make these my headers. So I'm going to call this categories and then points possible. Right. And then over here, I'm going to put a column to the left and call these, something like assessments and classwork, something along those lines. All right. So let's run the recheck again. Okay, so it's still marking my tables in there because I haven't really assigned these as headers. So when I click on the tables must be tagged. If I have more than one table, click on locate and it highlights that table, and then tag. And when this window comes up here, since I have header or column headers and row headers here, I'm just going to use mark first row as header and mark first column as header. Now it's still going to flag this cell here, but if I uncheck it, I think that's going to get rid of that option. So, because that's not going to, it's a blank space and it gets flagged if it's blank. So I think by checking that, that'll remove that. I'm going to click update, and then I'm going to run recheck again. Fingers crossed it turns green, and there we go. All right. So here's where it still says that empty cells is not recommended. I'm in the yellow. I'm not going to worry about that one. Landmarks are headers and footers. Again, if you include those, that's something to look at, but for the most part, 99% of the time, you're not going to worry about that. Then the last section is going to be your contents. Again, this is marked in yellow, but there are some important things in here that it looks at. So your high color contrast, your fine print, and all caps. So, and this one I'm in particular guilty of the fine print. So I'm going to click on that, and it's going to tell you, there's a font size of 8 somewhere in here, and there's multiple areas. And there's also some font sizes of 9 in multiple areas. Now, by chance, these are all in the same section here, so I'm going to click Select All. It's going to automatically scroll me to that area, turn gray, so I know that's the area I'm going to fix. And all I need to do is just adjust my font size to at least 10. 10 to 12 is sort of a good range. I think everything else in here is 11, so I'm going to actually make that 11 just to be consistent. All right. And likewise with the font size marked 9, that's my font down here. I'm going to make that 11 as well, just for consistency. And before I hit recheck, one more thing to look at is my all caps. So something in here is all caps, which is the word daily. So I'm just going to make that Grammatically correct. Looking at alignment here, any paragraphs that are too long, any links that need to be informative. So if you have a hyperlink, that might get flagged here. So it's nice to embed hyperlinks within a word or phrase if you can. So let's click recheck and see where we're at. So look at that, I'm at 100%, 22 out of 22. I wish I had that success in all my tests. So with that said, really overall, if someone was running a screen reader on this document, it's probably going to work pretty well for them. I don't have a lot of craziness in here except maybe that table, but now that I've labeled with headers, that should make things a little bit easier. It will pick up this empty cell, but typically screen readers will say empty cell, and people who use screen readers a lot are probably used to that, so they're probably not going to be thrown off by that at all. So Grackle Docs, same thing works in Google Slides. There is a Grackle Slides add-in and a Grackle Sheets add-on. They work a little bit differently because they're looking at different things based on the formatting and the file type. But overall, it's going to kind of do the same thing. It's going to run a check for you, and you can make those changes pretty quickly and easily. So I hope that helps, and feel free to reach out if you have any questions or want to experiment a little bit more with Grackle Docs. I'm happy to help.